Employee-employer relationship is a very big topic. So for the first part of this series, I'm going to focus primarily on the money side, which is, let's be honest, an important part of the equation. My goal for this video is not to bash or promote any side, but to give you a fair and honest assessment based on my personal experience so you can decide for yourself which side makes more sense. I worked 16 years as an employee for 11 different companies and 6 years as a business owner, so I think I got something to say on the subject. And if you're curious about how much I was making as an employee, stick to the end as I show you my old payslip so you know exactly how much I was making in my career. In fact, it's right here. If you're new here, I'm Jeremy Chatelain, founder of a SaaS business called Quickmail, which you can find out at quickmail.io. I produce every week videos about business to help you be more successful as an entrepreneur. So if you want to start your business with sound advice, consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind later. Okay, let me ask you a question. What would you say is the main difference between an employee and a business owner? If you're like most people, you probably answer something around money, power, or even freedom. But the first thing to know is that both are not mutually exclusive. For example, I'm currently an employee of my own company. And this is an important concept as many first-time solo founders don't always understand the difference as they usually wear both hats. The result is often one side being neglected, either by working for free or by getting a bad return on investment. In a healthy company, both the employees and the business owners should be happy, even if it's the same person. It's not a very complicated idea once you get your head around it, but it definitely took me about a year to discover, understand, and finally internalize the idea. Although it's fairly easy to get some information about salaries for employees, there is a total lack of transparency when it comes to business owner compensation, and this is really not hard to understand why. An employee is paid for the work done through a salary and sometimes bonuses. So this is quite predictable. In fact, it's even agreed upon before entering any employment contract. You'll know exactly how much you'll be making before you even start your first day at work. A business owner, on the other hand, is compensated for how well the business is doing, primarily by dividends. When we look at a financial statement, the salaries are part of the expense line. A business owner takes what is left from profits, and profit, simply put, is just revenues minus expenses plus tax. So if a business makes no money this fiscal year, the business owner doesn't receive any compensation, while the employee will still have received a full year's salary for the work that's been done. If the business loses money because of a failed initiative, it's usually at the expense of the owner's compensation. Broadly speaking, a salary is guaranteed where profits are not. On top of this, the owner could simply decide to reinvest the profit into the business to help the business grow faster. Of course, if the business is doing very well, the business owner can then decide to receive many years of an employee's salary in just one go, and this is usually the vision that most people have of a business owner. 3 years after I started my business, I remember how totally surreal it felt to pay myself 6 months of my past employment salary just as a bonus. And I verified many times that all the transfer details were correct before I pressed the confirmation button. To increase salary, future employees primarily rely on education. Spend 3 years in university to get a degree, and your salary will be higher to compensate for those extra years of education, with the promise that in the long run, more education leads to higher salaries. This is causing problems with educational inflation as everyone is pursuing the same strategy. You need to spend more years to get a higher degree to differentiate yourself from other applicants. If that wasn't enough, there are 4 more challenges that employees have to deal with in recent years. First, education cost is increasing, making it harder for low-income families to get a good education, at least in the US. Second, the spread of remote work means that employees now have to compete worldwide for exactly the same positions. Third, the advantage of high education is diminishing to the benefit of experience, which is also reinforced as you progress in your career. Fourth, your current job may actually become obsolete because of new technology. And finally, employees are limited to 40 years of productive labor and need to accomplish their financial goals during that time. So the future is not very rosy for new people entering the workforce as employee. A business owner, on the other hand, will take a bet that the company will grow and may have to go into debt or sell part of the company to investors like VCs to get enough money to reach profitability. The promise is that in the long run, creating a company will command more wealth than having a high salary as an employee. Otherwise, who would take the risk? And this is true. Where a salary follows a linear growth, a business owner's compensation can be exponential if the business manages to grow, which is not a given and definitely not as easy as it sounds. On top of growing a company, business owners also have a few challenges of their own. First, anyone can compete straight out of college, as business opportunities are not bound to capital anymore. A student in a dorm room can create a company that will make your business obsolete in just a few years. Second, some countries have no safety net whatsoever for business owners who fail. For example, you can't pretend to have unemployment benefit as a business owner where I live. So failing can have serious consequences, especially if you have a family. And of course, you only hear about the ones who succeed. Third, the increasing effect of the winners takes all in our globalized society makes it hard for average company to generate a lot of wealth. Fourth, remote work also means that employees are not limited to local job market salaries, and your management practices will need to align with the rest of the world. Finally, there is no predetermined path to success. No book of course will get you there. You'll need to find your own formula. At the time I switched from employee to business owner, I was making about $11,000 a month as an employee. My business, on the other hand, was making only $2,000 in revenues when I decided to work full-time on it. So I was missing about $10,000 a month compared to if I had carried on working as an employee. And this lasted for months, so the cost opportunity was pretty significant. Fortunately, this is a happy ending as my business did take off. If it didn't, this would have been a pretty sad story to tell. As an employee, your biggest lever when it comes to increasing your salary is probably to change jobs. In fact, this is what I did. Sure, you can always ask for a pay raise and negotiate your salary up, but it's not always easy for businesses to adapt to big changes in costs. To increase a business owner's compensation, you either need to lower the expenses or increase revenues. Now here's one thing that employees rarely understand. Saving $1 in cost is much easier than making $1 in profit. To make $1 in profit, assuming you have a 20% margin, you will need to sell an extra $5, and we're not even taking taxes into account. This means that the fastest way to increase a business owner's compensation in the short term is to reduce expenses. And since salaries are often the biggest expense in a business, it's easy to understand why often we hear about massive layoff to actually put a business back in shape. As an employee, I experienced this firsthand with the fall of Argonaut Games, a UK company. One morning, we were all summoned to the third floor of the building to be informed that the company was filing for bankruptcy. And so we all lost our jobs. It's no fun, but I guess it wasn't fun for the owners as well. In 1 month, I had another job, a better job even, at Electronic Arts, but for the owners, it will take them years to recreate a company this size. As an employee of my own company, I have both a monthly salary to compensate me for the work I do every day, and dividends at the end of the year should the company be profitable, and should I decide to exercise that right to reward the risk to create a company and lack of proper incomes for months. This is Capitalism 101. To conclude this part, my take is that if you want to build true wealth, it's incredibly difficult to do it as an employee. But it doesn't mean it's easy to do it as a business owner either, because very often what you hear is successes, not the vast majority of people who actually fail. Money, although very important, should not be your only deciding factor to become a business owner, as we'll see in future episodes. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Oh, I forgot that actually. Let me check. So this was my employment with Argonauts, right? Argonaut contract. If you want to know how much I was making, I was getting paid 1,900 pounds. Yeah, 1,900 pounds was I was making at Argonaut. It was a significant increase from Lionheads. I don't have, unfortunately, my French one, but in Lionheads, I was getting paid 1,200 pounds a month. I'm not sure if this is good or not, which is significantly different than what I was getting paid in the bank. So that one say 3,000 pounds. Wow, what a great increase. In many years, 3,600 even, that's probably when I left. Yeah, I stayed 3 months. The first month I say, what the hell is this place? Second month I gave my resignation, and third month was the sort of mandatory thing you had to do before leaving. Oh yeah, Centralway. Centralway, I think I was making 120,000 Swiss francs a year. Then I moved to EPAM, where I was making about 130,000 a year. Actance, I think I got about 150,000 Swiss francs a year. I think that was my biggest one. I also worked at the UK office when I was earning about 80,000 pounds a year. So you could see that an employee actually moved from 18,000 pounds a year up to 80,000 pounds a year. So quite a good progress. But again, this was like a linear progression, whereas a business owner, your progression will be more exponential. All right, I see you next time. All those years of employment,